Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome and welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben
on Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Boom. We're back to revisiting. We're back to cool guests. Today we have James of Geek Hard Show fame. You got a bunch of podcasts and radio shows. I feel like I would be too embarrassed to try and list them all and get them wrong, but you're someone that I certainly look up to in terms of this type of medium. So thank you very much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. This is I'm excited for this. This is one of those things that weirdly enough I wasn't sure I'd be excited for when we first discussed it. Like at the topic, not coming on. Obviously, talking to you guys, that's super cool. I just mean, the film in question, kind of, but I was like, we'll get into it. But it was like this has been a very pleasant last like week or so of my
just revisiting it
because not only did I revisit that, I'm into the sequels. I'm doing extra credit.
Nice. I was like, should I watch the sequels? And I was like, we might do episodes on the sequels. But yeah, the big thing I have to say is I gave you a list and forgot to put Men in Black, even though my plan was always to do like a Men in Black series at some point. So thank you very much for suggesting it, because I completely spaced on that when I gave you the list.
I am very much on board too, because I'm right there with you. I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna take, but after the first 5-10 minutes, I'm like, nope, we're good. We're gonna have fun this time. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, I know. When you guys, when Daniel, you sent me the list, and I was just like, I was, pleasantly surprised by the message, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, right? And then I'm like, and when you said, here are the movies, and I was like, oh, okay, there's a lot here, and then there was a lot taken, and I was like, okay, but then you said, or other suggestions, so I threw all that in there too, and this was one of those, and I was just like, yeah, all right,
perfect.
let's see what kind of mayhem we can get up to.
Yeah,
excellent. Yeah. That's the spirit. That's what I'm looking for.
And not that this is on topic, but right now, can't help but notice I have the exact same Grogu doll sitting right behind you, and boy, that's a treat to see.
Yeah, no, that's actually my second version. I got the original from Sideshow, which is the non-posable one. This is the Hot Toys one. So I have both of them. And so now this is the one that you can like manipulate. He's the Hot Toys, and he can he's a little bit posable, not super posable, but yeah, he's super realistic. And those eyes, man, when you get them up close and you can see it, it's like it's like alive. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's real. It's really good. I've got the stuffy version of it, but those eyes, they just like, I'm right there with you. They get you. They get you a lot.
You want it's you don't know if you want to chew on it or just hug it to death. You don't know what to do. Like, it's just, I don't know what it is. That's a thing too, eh? There's like a psychological thing about why we want to bite stuff.
That's I don't super remember cute. What it is. It's science though. So whenever it happens to me, I'm like, you know what? I'm just doing what I'm made to do. I can't help it.
Yeah. So, no, it's crazy.
I've heard a term for that, and it's called cute aggression. And I don't know how to take that term, because I'm like, okay, am I supposed to just trivialize your aggression right now, or just like, are you seriously biting me? I don't know. It's like, oh, a cat biting you. It's like, oh, silly cat, versus a dog. It's like, you gotta do something about that. It's very contextual.
Yeah, and it's always, and it depends on the age of the human sometimes.
Yes. Yeah,
I disagree with that.
Oh, okay. Fair
enough. That is, if it says 5+, we meet the requirements. We're good.
So, but before we met to record, we talked about doing your top 5 comic characters, as all of our cool guests have been doing so far.
Right.
I'm pretty interested in this, because you said, does anything go? So I said yes. So here I'm very excited to hear what you came up with.
Okay, so before we go further, okay, so I couldn't decide. This is a hard category for me. Okay,
Fair.
so as a backup, I created a secondary list, which is so like I've got my top 5 comic book characters, but I also have my top 5 comic book film characters, which is a different,
I'm all
which is
for
a
it.
slightly different list.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
I'm all for both of these.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll stay on topic and I'll do the top 5 comic book characters.
Mhm.
Boy howdy was this hard because only one of them did I know for sure.
Okay.
I have honorable mentions too. I've got like 13 honorable mentions. It's
Wow.
just ridiculous.
Yes.
All right. In no particular order after this one.
All right.
So the first one is always number 1 for me.
Sure.
And it's unfortunately, I'm not bringing thunder on this one. This is the tried and true safe bet, but my number 1 guy is Superman. Has been my entire life. Right? I just cannot. But yeah, like super cool character. I like the hokiness of the character, and I think when well written is a fantastic character. And I think that people who complain about that kind of wholesomeness, that Americana, is missing the point, right? And it has actually, that's going to come up in my other list, but again, twice. But this one, okay, so the rest of this list after this, no particular order.
Whatever. Okay.
Yeah. Next up is going to be V from V for Vendetta.
Okay.
Ooh, yes.
Nice.
Which is also I'll just, as a side note, is my favorite comic book of all time. But so yeah, V I really like. I find the character really super intriguing. Of course, the book was amazing. And still topical today. No matter what.
Yeah.
It's sad. I thought after reading it as a kid that we'd get away that no.
Nope.
It is unfortunately
there was about like a 10-12 year period where it was kind of like, no, this isn't a thing. And now we're right back again.
Look where we are.
there's an air of ignorance for that decade or so, like you said, and now we're like, wait, nope.
Yeah, it was like
we've all got phones now.
Yeah, it's basically like the 90s, and then when you get to like the early 2000s, like forget it. It was just a downward spiral.
I heavily agree with that. Heavily.
Yeah. Next up will be the last of my official top 5 characters from DC.
Okay.
Even V is just that I call it DC because it's just the way it works out, but it's not technically, an editor.
Yeah.
Anyways, but the last of my DC guys is the Question.
I like that pick. I like that character.
I've always been a fan of the Question, especially the reboot in the 80s, which is how I got introduced to the character. Super cool. Really loved it. Vic Sage, I love the idea of the faceless man. It was great. And just like the detective nature, he's the cooler Batman. That's how I like to put it, even though he's psychotic. And also he's doing it with none of the money. Right?
Yeah.
So
just his gumption.
Yeah, and then of course eventually Renee Montoya, version.
That's how I got into the Question.
Okay.
Renee Montoya.
Yeah. So there's that. Then my other 2 picks. Next up is Barry Ween.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah. Okay. I actually I'm blanking on who the creator is right now. Damn it! I thought I meant to write it down. Anyways, it was a book. I came across it just accidentally.
Okay.
And it was just something that I came across and I checked it out and I was like, it's funny. It's because it's actually, the book is called The Adventures of Barry Ween, Boy Genius.
Okay.
So it's basically, Judd Winick is the writer.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the book that brought him into the mainstream, as it were. And it's basically like, think kind of like a Peanuts, Calvin and Hobbes-esque comic strip style, but just told by your 40-year-old drunk uncle who goes to live sex shows. That's kind of like how this book is.
I have to read this book now.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. There's aliens, interdimensional travel, dinosaurs. It's craziness going on in this book, but it always made me laugh. Right?
Love it.
Here's the thing, though. I haven't read it in a long time. I I don't know how well it ages.
Yeah,
That's the only thing, right?
I mean, based on that, there is the potential, based on what you said, like who the narrator, quote unquote, is, it does feel like there's a potential for things not to age well, but seems like still could be a fun read, given when it was made.
Yeah, no, totally. I because it was like 99 when the first book came out.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it, but I have a lot of it's one of those characters that I've always enjoyed. Like when I think about it, still makes me laugh.
Nice.
And now that I'm talking about it with you guys, I actually think I'm gonna have to dig them out and do a reread.
Yes. I'm gonna have to find it and read it as well. Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thank you for reminding me to make me even think about this, because I was like, I had like, sorry, I'll do my last one and then I'll talk about, because my honorable mentions are more common, right? So my last one is, and this is arguably like my 1A.
Okay.
And this is going to be off path. Right? I will also not be surprised if you don't know what I'm talking about.
All right.
This comes from a cartoonist by the name of Andy Runton.
Mm-hmm.
And the book is Owly, character of Owly, which is it's a book with no words.
Okay.
Everything Owly and all the other characters talk in picture word balloons.
Interesting.
So if they do say something, it's a word balloon, but it's with a picture inside of the word balloon.
Okay.
And but most of the time it's just done via Tableau, right? So you're just looking at the panels and it's showing it, and an emotion pops off the page. It's just basically about Owly being this cute little owl that goes around, has all his little forest friends, and they do like cool things to help each other out. Kind of like is somewhat in the neighborhood of Winnie the Pooh.
Okay.
So there's some things there, but it's just a very simple read, and I like it because of just how nice it is. It's just a nice.
So when you find a piece of media that's just nice, and you're like, that's nice. I like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like I said, I've got the question and V on here.
Yeah.
Not so nice topics. Right. Barry Ween in that category too, I guess. But Owly is that kind of like, that's your aperitif. It's just a kind of like just give you a little bit of a spell from the seriousness.
Yeah.
But I'll quickly all my honorable mentions for actual comic book characters: Alfred Pennyworth, Iron Man, Jonah Hex, Agent Graves from 100 Bullets, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Iron Fist, and Nightcrawler.
Okay.
So more your common
and
characters.
I knew all of them, so I felt good about it.
Yeah, there it is, right? Yeah, that's why I wanted to go a little off book with some of these choices, and I was like, because honestly, these guys could all slot in at different times, you know. And then I was like, there's so many characters. It's like it becomes like a who's who, right? Now, as you can tell, not a lot of Marvel. I'm a DC guy, so that's how my world rolls in comics. I'll quickly
question though.
Yeah, go for it.
Of the honorable mentions, I did notice a few Marvel ones that were like Iron Fist, and Iron Man and all that kind of stuff. Now the Iron Fist one, I haven't seen or met a lot of Iron Fist fans, but what's the biggest appeal for Iron Fist for you? Genuinely, just curious.
Well, I came late to the Iron Fist party, so like I am in the more modern version of the character, right? So there is the what is it? It's Brubaker. Yeah, it's the Brubaker book. That is an amazing book. If you want to read good Iron Fist, that's the Iron Fist to read. It's a really great series. It brings in everything. And what's also good about it is because it's as a maxi series, it's only like 12 issues or whatever it is, and that's it.
Nice. Okay.
You can read that and you can feel like you've got the goodness. I have read subsequent Iron Fist, Iron Fist and Luke Cage stuff that more like when they recently did like a Power Man reboot.
I just finished reading that like reboot stuff.
Yeah. And that stuff is really good too. It's just, but yeah, like the Iron Fist character, there's something about the again, as you'll notice, other than Superman, most of my characters are street level, kind of regular Joes, right? Like sure, Green Lantern also kind of flies off the and Nightcrawler, but for the most part, because like one of the reasons I always liked Iron Man, actually I can tell you exactly why I like Iron Man. There's one reason and one reason only.
Okay.
super cool fucking costume.
There's no
Yes.
denying it's a cool costume.
Yeah.
Right? It's like Green Lantern, super cool costume.
I do like the visual I mean, I guess when I was into, if I couldn't even say I was into Green Lantern, it was like the Kyle Rayner era, but like I still liked the costume. I was like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, no, like I was like old school, like Hal Jordan. That's what I grew up with, and I was just like, I love that style and that look because when I remember seeing the Superpowers figure when it first came out back in the 80s when I was a kid, and I was just like, that is a cool looking costume. That bro kills. Love it. And weird with the lantern thing. I didn't understand what was going on until I later on, and I was like, still cool.
You know what I love most about the Green Lantern outfit, though? It's just like you know how most superhero outfits look like they're made specifically for that person?
Yeah.
His does, but every other iteration through the Lantern Corps, it looks like a different version that's specifically made for that character as well, which is like the coolest adaptation, but there's still a uniformity throughout it. And I'm like, that's awesome. It's really, really cool.
All of them keep to approximately the black, green, and white color scheme. They all have the same logo. It does give that uniformity to that. Well, because they're the space police, right? So they should be, you know. I guess the only exception would be Mogo, but you know that's kind of a cheat because he's a planet. But or it's a planet, I should say. But yeah, no, and Nightcrawler was always my favorite X-Men. You know, just
really cool.
Yeah,
like, even when they did him in X2, like it was like, okay, you still made him cool there.
Yeah. No, it's like I'd be cool. Like, yeah, and like obviously Alfred and those like Alfred is
that's
just
a great
awesome.
pick by the way, Alfred. Like he's such a staple, but like I feel like everyone goes for like the masked heroes, and Alfred's such a big hero.
Alfred, some of the best Batman stories, Alfred is the star as far as I'm concerned. That he'll have like, and to your point, it's like one panel, maybe 2 or 3 at most, right? But it shines because it's always like some glib line. It's like I always remember what really brought it into focus for me was the '89 Batman. You know, like and a couple times where Alfred Goh, who plays that Alfred, or not Alfred Goh, sorry,
Michael Goh.
Yeah, Michael Goh. When he does it, just some of the lines that he does to Keaton, I'm like, yeah, that's. And then looking back at the '66 Batman and the Alfred there, it's like, yep, super cool. And then of course, Batman the Animated Series Alfred is right. So you put all that together, and then you start reading the comics, and then it was like, oh, there, I can now see like there's like a couple lines here, a couple lines, and it kicks, right? So. Love that stuff. I'll quickly do, just for sake of fun of it, my comic books for characters for films. Because it is a slightly different list. All right. Because and to be clear, I'm also going to name actors.
That's perfect.
Because it's required.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you specify. Yes.
So Christopher Reeve Superman is my number 1.
Okay.
Because I grew up on it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. And specifically Christopher Reeve.
And I feel like that first movie, when we revisit it, like as two people who aren't that big on Superman, like you really, even in this era where we've seen all like Infinity Saga and stuff, like it still holds up as like a great performance as like a lead superhero, like the Christopher Reeve first Superman.
Dude, I remember as a kid loving the movie, and then when I was late in high school, early 20s, I remember. Me and my friends, we were rewatching the film and had these, discussions about it. And it was at that point is when I realized the greatness of his performance as both characters, because he actually physically transforms on screen. Like in the first film, that scene where him and Lois are going back and forth, and he's Clark Kent and he's hunched over and he's doing the thing. And all of a sudden, when he decides he's going to tell her, when she's in the bathroom, and he just goes, and he cuts to his foot, and I was like, holy shit! And all of a sudden, everything changes. Like his face changes, his posture changes. I was like, God damn it! That's a great
performance.
It is, but that's Juilliard, right? Like he's a Juilliard trained actor, and of course, really close friends with the best Batman. So the only Batman, R.I.P. Going for the rest of it, Chris Evans, Captain America, because much like Superman in both cases, I think both those characters super cheese, but when done right, is amazing. Even when you look at his in Captain America, Winter Soldier, which is the best Marvel film, it's just a great performance all the way through. And then when you get to Endgame and he has, like when he's fighting Thanos, well, even in Infinity War and he's holding on to the glove and everything, he's just like throughout, right? Even with, language, like you can do, there's cheese moments, but then he has like amazing moments, right? So I love that character as well. Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Awesome.
Because it's the best.
So far, I'm loving these picks.
Yeah, because it's the best Spider-Man.
Agreed.
Yes, 100% agree.
100%.
Yeah. Of course, I'll leave him for last. So then I'll go with, because I think that's going to be a little weird. But anyways, no, my next one up is sticking in the MCU, and that's Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther.
Yes.
Great pick.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it. He's so good, right? And
really
Black Panther is amazing, but his performance is, amazing. And again, R.I.P. because
that really sucks.
Yeah. Totally changes the MCU's entire forward momentum because he would have been, but world sucks sometimes. But yeah, he's fantastic. And then lastly, of my top 5, I've got Bruce Willis as David Dunn from Unbreakable.
I mean, yep, he certainly is. To be clear, I am in the minority as someone who didn't love that movie only because my friend ruined it for me before I saw it. Like they said, "Oh, sorry, this show's spoiled rotten." Obviously, if you haven't seen Unbreakable, unfortunately, I'm gonna spoil it. He just told me before I watched it, like, "Oh, he's just a superhero," and they're trying to find out like who his villain is, and it's Samuel L. Jackson. So like the whole movie, I was just like, yeah, okay, I get it. He's a superhero, and I didn't have the feeling of like he might be, he might not be. I was just like, I already know he is, so I want to get to that part. So yeah, it was ruined for me. So it's not my favorite, but I mean, I'm glad to have Bruce Willis on the list because I, up until a certain point, I was on board with all of his performances.
Yeah, no, that's that's I think that's a fair point. I'm in the same boat with him. There's some great stuff and there's not so great stuff. Anyways, quickly, honorable mentions: Rocket, Wonder Woman, Baby Groot, Ultron. The movie sucks, but the character is amazing.
I love Ultron. Yep.
Yeah,
and
Ultron's amazing.
And the only other person on this, of course, that I have to be specific, because again, these are films, so I didn't mention Wonder Woman, of course, obviously is Gal Gadot, but the Magneto is Michael Fassbender's Magneto.
Yeah.
Specifically from First Class, because that scene, like I want that Magneto Nazi Hunter film. That's what I really want.
Because that is what it was supposed to. Because it's just because the Wolverine origins messed up, but I think they just took their Magneto origins movie and turned it into First Class. And but all of that stuff is what works for me. Is the stuff that was clearly supposed to be the solo Magneto movie.
Yeah, it's that stuff is, and Fassbender, regardless, is an amazing Magneto. Because he's an amazing actor, but he's an amazing Magneto too. So, anyways, I took a way too long to do all these lists, but that's all my stuff. That's what I got.
No, I don't like it. That was great.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Actually, I could have. There's a part. I'm not gonna lie. I almost did a top 5 comic book TV characters list on top of all of this because I could just.
We're gonna have to have you back on then so that we can have that list.
Yeah, because I remember early days where there was discussion about Arrow and all that kind of stuff, and it just fell off because it was just too much to keep up with.
Yeah. But I would say if you'll be back, we would love to have you back, and then we can talk about your TV.
We got to do a trilogy.
Yeah,
that's what we got to do.
If you want, as we get into it now, like if you want to, we want to do more MIBs. Let me know.
Oh, please. Okay. I'm gonna lock you into this now. Like we would love to do the MIB movies with you.
Yep, that's cool.
Yeah,
we haven't even started talking about the film yet. We're just doing it off. You're saying yes because of my comic book list. That's all right. I'll take the win.
That's the perspective that I want to look at from this movie. So let's get right into it. This movie is just so good. Let's go.
I mean, you've already said it. I think it's great. I think as a kid when I saw it, I was just like, is this a perfect movie? I don't think it's perfect now, but I think as a kid, I was just like, this was just everything I wanted out of a movie. And I feel like it still works even today.
Mhm.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because you just said it. You were a kid, like a kid. How old were you when you first saw the film? Just out of curiosity.
Probably 11 or 12.
How about you, Ben?
Definitely around the same time. I know I saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
So it was at
So I would have been
release.
11.
Yeah.
I would have been 11. I saw it in theaters.
Wow. Okay. All right. Different perspectives. Okay, that's cool.
So this
Oh,
to
yeah,
me-
So where's
I
your
would've-
perspective coming from?
Well, because I would have been because it's 97,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, it's 97. Yeah, so I was 23
Okay,
when it
so
came
you
out.
probably
Yeah, so I came in it as an adult. Well,
Mhm.
quasi adult. But yeah, no. When I remember when it came out, I wasn't the biggest Will Smith fan.
I think that's a big barrier. Is it like
It's a
if you're
huge
not
barrier.
if you're not a Will Smith fan, he will threaten to ruin this whole thing for you.
Yep.
Yeah, well, for me, okay, so like this is what I'll say is like I was a Will Smith fan, like not musically. I'm definitely not a Will Smith fan musically.
Yeah.
I don't hate him. I don't hate his music or anything like that. It's not like I'm not a big rap guy, right? So
Yeah.
that was just never a thing for me. But I was a huge fan of Fresh Prince.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So I love Fresh Prince.
Mhm.
And so that I was like, all right. And then of course Bad Boys, which was like a totally underrated film is back when it came out, as far as I'm concerned, still is to this day.
Mhm.
Even with the sequels, I don't care. And honestly, just watch the first one. But with Will Smith, I was just like, I wasn't 100% sure, right? And then of course this is this is the same year as ID4 too, isn't it? No,
It's
ID4
like,
was 90.
it's a year after.
Yeah,
So like,
94, 96 was ID4. Yeah. So we'd seen him in there and I was like, okay, but he's still playing it kind of like serious because he's trying to get away from Fresh Prince. So I was like, okay, here he's kind of he's going not only back to Fresh Prince, but going further, because I found the humor in this to be beyond what Fresh Prince was. Because Fresh Prince, because there's it's a little, there's definitely more goofiness in this, right? But then you got Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
Like, right? And I didn't think it was going to work, but these two guys together legit work.
I think once they get together, it's really that's what makes the movie work for me, is the fact that they not get along. It's just that they actually have chemistry together. I think that really helps. And I know that behind the scenes he was not like Tommy Lee Jones wasn't having a good time because he couldn't. They wouldn't commit to it being a comedy or like just straight up action movie, and he kept trying to push one way or the other. But like, I was like, what? It doesn't really show in his performance. I'm like, it seems like he has a very good handle on what he's doing. He seems pretty in the pocket for this role.
Well, I think that, like, to your point, I think part of that though, is the fact that Tommy Lee is such a great actor and he is a professional. So like he knows what he needs to do, as it were. But yeah, no, I really like them together. And then, but the thing that was like really shocking to me was how much the goofiness of the aliens, like as far as the comedy was concerned, like that works. You know what I mean? Like, and how they interacted with them. Because you got to remember, like, for you guys, it was like I said, because I was like 10 years older than you guys. So like I had gone through all of the 80s schlock sci-fi. Like, when I was doing that when I was your age, when you watched this. So like you were coming into it like at like a great, like we've got Jurassic Park's already come out, so CGI has really become a thing. Like the CGI in this, there's still some puppetry and stop motion and stuff like that works in this, right? But the CGI that is in here is like, it's actually still not that bad.
Holds up.
It's not.
I was like, I was surprised at how much, because I don't know, it's probably been like at least 10 years since I last watched this, right? And I was like, wow, this is really shockingly, surprisingly holding up. I was pretty impressed. I was like, okay,
yeah,
because I was full on expecting to pop it in and be like, oh, this is like a Roger Corman film, right? Like this is just not, it's not going to age well. I'm thinking the jokes aren't going to land. And but I'll tell you something. One of the reasons I brought it up, Daniel, to you was because I don't know about you guys, but I go through YouTube rabbit holes quite a lot.
Yep.
Oh God, I live on YouTube for sure.
So the last like 3 or 4 years, I never used to be a YouTube guy.
Mhm.
Like I would go to watch something and then I'd
Right.
leave.
Yeah.
That was it. I was very utilitarian about it.
Mhm.
The last few years though, I have gotten into just I turn it on and I'll watch some sports stuff on there, like because they'll whatever clips from the sports talk shows and stuff like that. I'll watch some of those, yada yada yada. Anyways, one day about I don't know about 4 months ago or something like that, I was going down another movie rabbit hole,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden a clip from Men in Black comes up, and and I love it because it's one of my favorite scenes. Is the whole interview.
Mm.
Great
For,
scene.
it's so like when he shows up at the Battery building and he
Mhm.
goes in, and then from the moment he goes down the elevator and he gets in and he's in the room with the military guys,
I love it.
and the breaking of the pencils, and then in there, you want to get in on this,
I love
right?
it.
Like I was like, oh, okay, all right.
That is one of my
Before that,
favorite
when he's
scenes
like
for
with
sure.
Captain America, he's just so happy to be here, but he has no clue what's going on.
Right?
Yeah. The best of the best. Oh, the best.
Sir. Yeah,
Y'all ain't
best
laughing.
over here. Yeah. You know what's going on. Right?
Mhm.
So I'm like, there was that whole scene through to the gun range to, and I was just like, I was watching it and I was like, damn, I think I should watch this again. So then it was like, I don't know, it was probably a couple weeks after that you messaged me and I was like, and it popped in my head.
I'm so glad you went down that rabbit hole because it would have been a huge missed opportunity otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. It's like I started rewatching it and I was like, I forgot like the whole movie essentially. Like, and as I started watching it, so I throw it on Netflix because that's where in Canada, that's where you can find it because Netflix, of course, has made the great deal. Sony's smartly said, we're not going to do a streaming service.
I'm so happy they said that. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So they're
Just
renting,
Netflix.
they're everything goes anywhere they want, but they're made their big deal with Netflix right now.
Mhm.
But anything could be anywhere. So all the films are on there. And I'm like, this is great.
Mhm.
But as soon as I went to turn it on, very first thing, this is going to be my big takeaway about this film. You know why I love this film so much on my rewatch this past weekend? I'll tell you exactly why. 97 minutes.
Yep.
Mm.
It's a tight movie in
Yep.
that sense.
97 minutes. Find me an MCU film less than 2 hours. It doesn't
We
exist.
can.
I mean, they're there.
Ant-Man.
They've been trying their best to make them under 2 hours, and they haven't been doing well. But
I think Ant-Man succeeded in like one of the first ones, right?
oh,
Where
sure,
it's
yeah,
like
it's the first.
Is the first
one.
Ant-Man under?
The first
No, it isn't.
Ant-Man
It isn't actually.
No, it
I
isn't.
remember thinking. I remember that's when we were doing the revisit. I was like, I thought this movie was like 90 minutes, but I think it is over 2 hours.
My God!
It just feels like it zips along.
Yeah.
Like it.
I am pretty sure that it is over 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the first Ant-Man is over 2 hours. It just feels like it moves well. And
You're right.
You
it
know,
does.
you know what? I think you might be right, and I think it's only one film that's under 2 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, I haven't looked it up yet, but I'm pretty sure it's Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, Multiverse
because Sam
of
Raimi.
Madness
Sam
is-
Raimi.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He's not a. Oh, well, is it really an MCU film? The original, The Incredible Hulk, because that's an hour and 52.
I mean, it is. It was
I mean,
made
it's
as part
canon.
Of the MCU. It is.
Yeah,
it
was.
is
It's
canon.
MCU canon.
It wasn't made by Paramount back then because Universal did that, right?
Yeah, both the first two Thor films are under. Ant-Man is 1 hour and 57 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
There we go.
There we go. Boom. But
but going below 1 hour and 55 is like not a thing.
right.
No.
And yeah, here we go. So as soon as you start with Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I don't believe
They're all 2.5 hours.
Yep. Everything
Yeah.
is at least 2 hours.
Oh yeah, for sure. It gets too bloated at that point. But you make a very, very good point. 97 minutes straight through. It's a tight ship of storytelling. It's good.
Because
They're not messing around.
No, they're not at all.
Just
I think
tell the
as a
story.
kid I was just like, oh, you don't even like know about Will Smith before he becomes a Men in Black. Like you know he's a cop, but like they just get right to it. They're just like, no, he's good. And I remember watching it again and being like, wow, he's really running after this alien. Like I know it's an alien at this point. Rewatching it, I was like, I mean, if he should get the job just off of this alone. The fact that he's able to catch up with this alien. Yeah, so you just know what you need to know about him right away, and then they go for it. He's a Man in Black. And
it's that, which I think is what helps. You know, like because obviously the film is sold off of Will Smith's name.
Yes.
At this point, because you're going to get the Fresh Prince fans, you're going to get the ID4 fans, you're getting the Bad Boy fans, like they're all going to come in, and I don't think any of the three are cheated.
No,
I think
you
get what you want out of.
Yeah, you get a version of
bases.
all of those in there for sure.
Yeah,
and I mean, whereas this time, like, I am a Will Smith fan, like, so I was just like, yeah, like he's great, but I remember this rewatch really locking into the sadness that Tommy Lee Jones feels about like the woman he never got to give the flowers to. So when Will says like better to love and lost than to never love, and the way he leans in and goes try it, I was like, no, that's some acting right there. I like that scene. I like that energy a lot. Just the way he said try it, and I was like, geez, I didn't remember that. I was just like, wow, he's really upset about this.
It's funny how you mentioned that. Is like when you like this idea of going back and rewatching a film. Like I do it naturally. Like I'll watch. I'll be like, okay. And I keep coming back to certain films, and I just keep rewatching them over and over again. But this is just one that I was like, I've forgotten how much when I saw it in the theaters, I had a good time with it. Like to both your points is like, is it a great film? No, it's a fun film.
Yes, very fun.
Does it make me sit there and rethink my place in the universe? Technically, no. But is it giving us the great acting performances? Not really. There's moments.
Yeah,
but like you've got talking worm alien things in it. Like it's hard to. And anything with Rip Torn is not exactly going to be.
Yeah, they're not going for great acting.
No, they're not high drama here, right? So,
yeah, I think it's just a movie that knows what it's trying to accomplish, so they get it done. There's not a lot of, even to this point, like I don't even really care what the bad guy's trying to do. Like it's not one of those things where I'm like caught up on the logic of it. I'm just like, whatever. He's stealing a galaxy. Doesn't matter. I'm just here for like those moments that we've talked about, because this is just facilitating moments of Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith interacting with each other.
Yeah, the MacGuffin is completely pointless here.
Yeah,
right. Like they never talk about what's the importance of this galaxy. They never talk about
just that it's being held for ransom, and the Earth will be blown up. And then even in the movie, they undercut that by Tommy Lee Jones like, that's always happening. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's not that important. Like that's constantly a thing.
That's a Tuesday for him, right? Like it's like, but that's the thing is like this film, like, okay, so I mentioned the 97 minutes was a big plus for me, right? And actually the sequels also fall in that category. They're all around that like 90 to 100 minute mark, right? So this is like, it's great. But I will say there are times when I was watching it, I was like, I'm loving the pace. I love them that we're going.
Yeah.
But then there's a couple times where I'm like, maybe like an extra minute or two here to help like pad it out with some characters, characterization, like there's some backstory, like something. But then I'm like, you got to that's offsetting my love of the 97-minute format, right? So I'm like, because like I will say this right now. Fuck Christopher Nolan. You ruined cinema.
Fair enough.
Right? Like why 3 hours? Like why? Right? Like every
gonna be?
Dude, apparently there's like a 4.5 hour cut of that film.
Good for him for doing that.
Oh my God. I just like somebody needs to assassinate that guy or something. Like just take all cameras away from him.
That's why they put it on IMAX. They need to feed all the ego in. That's why they can't do the Madonna biopic. Couldn't fit the ego on the screen.
I've been toying with doing for the site because I sometimes will do a top 5 list. I haven't done it in a few years now. But I've got one that I want to do, but I cannot find enough to fill out my 5. And it's top 5 overrated directors.
Interesting.
Right. So Christopher Nolan immediately is on my list, right?
All right.
Yeah. But I was like, but part of it is because of that ego, right? And this is, and this ties into Men in Black, because Sonnenfeld is a completely different animal when it comes to directing. If you look at all of his films, including this one, Addams Family, like the other things, he just wants to tell a good, fun story.
Mhm.
I think that has a lot to do with his background in porn, but that's how he got into film.
Did not know that ahead of time.
Yeah. There's a story that he tells about how he only did it for like, I think it was like 6 months to a year or something like that, right? It wasn't a very long time. He just needed money, right?
The average porn career.
Yeah. He wasn't acting in them. He was editing, right?
Yeah.
So that's all he was editing. But he talks about after he stopped doing that, he couldn't get an erection for a year.
I could see that actually. If he just
was like,
because you have to not think about it anymore, and it's just work to you.
Completely desensitized to anything sexual for like a whole year after that. He was just like, I'm like, that's really weird. But then I was like, the more I think about when I heard that story and I think to his career, I was like, oh, this actually makes a lot more sense now. Him as a director, because there's like an economy of, that he does with his shot selection and his storytelling. It just, and there's like a pacing. Kind of reminds me of porn. It's just like, here, here's all the money shots.
Yeah.
Movie's over.
Gotta get here, gotta get here, gotta get here.
Like, we need a couple of dialogue scenes to get to the big set pieces, but we know what you came here for.
That's right. Like, and it was, the more I watched Men in Black, I was like, this really does make me think of porn. It's like, it's money shot, talkie bit, money shot, talkie bit, money shot, money shot.
Now, we are obviously talking about the good old days of VHS porn, where there was like 4 or 5 solid scenes and like a storyline that tried to tie them all together. We had our parody stuff. This is pre-Pornhub stuff. Yes, it absolutely does. Yeah, but that was the only type of porn that existed back then.
100%. Pornhub has ruined everybody.
It's too easy.
It's money shot video, money shot video.
And then ads. No storyline. Terrible.
Yeah, I think you're onto something here with his directing style.
I'm not bringing it up to like I'm not obviously trying to shame the guy. I don't give a shit that he worked in porn.
It's a job.
I'm sure he's perfectly happy with his career. I don't think he feels any shame.
Absolutely. But I just found it interesting because it seems like, and I would love to be able to ask him that question, because I'd be curious if he would agree with that thinking, right? Like if he would say, yeah, I think you might be onto something there, like it's just kind of like, because you hear and see directors talk about stuff like this, like how, not the porn part, of course, but like how they tell their stories, right? Like, there's certain directors, of course, Eastwood's famous for his, like 3 shots and move on, right? Like that's it. You get 3, you're done. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I don't care if he sucked.
Like it happened, like just fresh stuff. Go.
Yeah, he's about making the shot list every day. Right.
I can't remember who it was, but there was this actress saying for $1 Million Baby, she played the sister, and she thought they were just setting up the scene, and he was like, "Hey, what if you went over there?" or whatever, and like while she was going over to her like what she thought was her mark, he's like, "Hey, got it." She's like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "Yeah, okay, that's it. That was the scene." Like, that's you going over to give her food. Got it. Let's move on now.
It's such a weird thing, right? Yet there's other directors. Nolan's kind of like this, but I know Kubrick, notorious for like 60, 70 takes.
So I listened to that podcast, Blank Check, where they were saying, because I think they were very nice to him about that. I think that's too much, and he was terrorizing the actors. But they were talking about his documentary background, and so like it's not that he was punishing people. It's just he didn't know what he was looking for till he saw it. So he just had to keep going because he was used to being able to just film and then see what he needed to do and edit later for a documentary. So while he's doing his movies, it's the same thing. Like they're asking, "What do you want?" And he's just like, "I don't know, do it again. Just I don't know, do it again. I'll see it when I see it."
I was reading. I remember reading one of his bios where they talked about his early work. Like, so he starts with film photography, still photography. That's how he started, and he's also got one of my favorite movie quotes of all time from anybody in Hollywood, which is it's something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing. He basically is like, "I hate the fact that I am so good at something that I hate." Right? Like I was like, wow, that's a statement. Like, okay.
Wow.
But but I think you're right. I think like between the still photography portion of his life where he would just get a tableau and the documentary stuff, and the other things that he was working on, I think to your point, much like Lucas has no clue.
Yeah, just keep going. It'll get there.
Something will happen,
Yeah.
and there it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Lucas is all about the set design, and it's like, wait, acting, dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, right. I guess this movie needs that.
He's a great storyteller. Hates actors.
Yeah.
Not a good combo.
I 100% see what you're saying about the Sonnenfeld porn thing, because there's just so many gratuitous shots here that would be the money payoff. I mean, like if we look at the first opening scene where was Jay and Kay and the older agent. I'm like, tell me that alien exploding all over the place.
100%.
All over the place. That's a money shot. 100% that's a money shot. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And then we got Aftercare from Tommy Lee Jones. It's a different kind of thing. And then we got the baby delivery with Will Smith looking directly into the camera.
Yeah.
With the goop all over his face. Like total porn background, 100% see it.
Yeah, I always think about the baby delivery scene.
Like,
oh man, that's
flipping around in the car. You're like, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden, bloop. I'm like, okay. And again, like Grogu, it's got the big eyes, and you're just like, oh, it's so cute, little octo baby. Like just.
But then it pukes on you, like Grogu.
Well, that's right. Like you have kids, so that's how that works.
I was able to avoid it except for once. He puked right into my mouth, and I was just like, come on.
Oh, that's rough. Has someone not created like a splash shield, like to?
Yeah, they've got the bibs that kind of go like this, so that it just goes into the bib and then hangs there.
Okay.
But he didn't have a bib on when that happened, so that's
rough.
That's the issue.
Yeah, good times.
This is clearly from the person that's not a parent. Like, wait, isn't there like a salad bar changing station where there's a sneeze shield? That's what I'm thinking, because I'm an idiot.
Well, honestly, dude, if I had kids, that's exactly what I would be doing. I would build like that subway style, like there's the platform, here's the sneeze guard. I want none. I don't want pee in my face. I don't want poop in my face. I don't want vomit in my face. I don't want any of it in my face.
Yep. If you're like a biologist or a chemist or something like that, one step further, you get the gloves in there. That whole like, yep.
Yeah, I'm there for the cuddles. That's what I'm there for. I'm there for...
The sad truth is you're willing to have it go on you if it means you don't have to change the whole outfit and start from scratch when they pee on themselves. You're kind of like, all right.
I see the lesser of two evils argument.
Because it's already hell doing the diaper. Anyway, this has been enough about kids.
That's fair.
But it was an appropriate segue, because that baby doll did look very, very real. It looked damn good. So good. And I think that's where this movie succeeds, is it uses CGI when it needs to, and it uses practical effects when it needs to as well.
Exactly.
Rick Baker, right? Like, so that's a big deal as well, to be able to have Rick Baker do your makeup and creature design.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. And I like when I look at I do like one of the things about this movie, and actually the series of films, that I give them a ton of props for over Star Trek, obviously over Star Wars. As much as I love Star Wars, I understand, but and most other, but specifically Star Trek, but most other science fiction films, I love how in here the creature design is alien. Right? Like,
it's not like humans with like a ridge on their forehead or whatever.
There's a couple like that are in that category, like sort of, but they do stuff to stay away from that, right? And like I already mentioned, the worm guys, that the octo baby is another one. Even Edgar, right? Like slash bug, because Edgar doesn't really, the bug doesn't really have a name. They always refer to it.
We got a bug. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And we know him as Edgar because that's who he was when he was human.
Wearing an Edgar suit.
Yeah. But like when you get to that reveal of what it actually looks like, which is that's the finale of the film, for is when we finally see what the bug really looked like. Like all of those designs, I was like, these are these are actually pretty like
Mhm.
extraterrestrial.
Yes. I
My
think they
biggest
do a really good job with
Ooh.
aliens.
Yeah, my biggest standout is like when they first enter the scene, like they're introducing is like this is the actual like, and basically I figure, oh, this is like basically an airport terminal where they're like
Yeah.
doing their stuff, and Will Smith has to interact with that one like transparent bag like alien. I'm like, they are getting really. This is extraterrestrial. You're absolutely right. It's not like, oh, that's a humanoid with like gills. Like
Yeah.
this is they went all out with character design.
Yeah, it's the like, and don't get me wrong, I love Star Trek, and I'm a huge fan and love all of the shows,
Mhm.
to various degrees, obviously. But
Mhm.
I go all the way back to TOS. That's what I grew up on, right? And I get from a practical financial standpoint, this
Right.
is how they had to look.
Mhm.
It's the 60s. There's no way to do what they do. And honestly, it's not even until Discovery do they actually do an alien species on that show that I think is legitimately good. Well, I guess maybe on Voyager with the was it 8764, whatever it is, the
Mhm.
Borg
Six or
haters.
seven. Oh no! Oh no! Never mind. I thought we were talking about something else.
Yeah, no, there's the one alien species. The Borg has the designation. They don't actually have a name in this show.
Okay.
They always refer to it as this. But they're the ones that the Borg hate, and they hate the Borg, and
Mhm.
they live in that other dimension of space or something. Anyways, other than those things, which had like 3 legs or something, right? Like other than that, it's not until you get to 10C in Discovery do you get like extraterrestrial. Like,
Yeah.
and I think Denny Villeneuve's arrival has a lot to do with that. Like when you saw those aliens, like that's super cool. Like they're out there,
This-
you know?
Arrival's great for that.
Yeah.
Just like the aliens, and then actually, anyway, yeah, I love that movie.
But
that's
Men in Black did it first. So that's it.
yeah,
Mhm.
and
You know?
quicker.
Yeah. Yes. By a lot.
I do. Another thing I liked that wasn't as goofy was that you do see there's moments where Will Smith's character is actually learning stuff. Like he'll come in hot and like with quips until Tommy Lee Jones says something, and then you can actually watch him process it and say something like, "Okay, well then what's the move?" and not try to be like, whatever. I know what I'm doing. Like just being like, "Okay, obviously you know what you're talking about." And I thought that was interesting because they could have got away with him just being an idiot the whole time instead of like actually piecing together like how everything works and learning along the way.
Well, to that point, I think that's a great point because if you look at their first interaction, which is just in the police station, he takes him and he's like, "Hey, let's," and he's asking him all the questions, and they go to Jeeb's place.
Mm-hmm.
And he does do what you said. Like he goes in, guns ablazing,
Yeah.
thinking he knows everything that's going on. This is just another New York thing, yada, yada, yada. Doesn't know about aliens. He's going in there. And then Kay comes in and blows Jeeb's head off.
Right.
And he's like, what the? And that flips. And then to your point later on, when they're teamed up as the Men in Black, he gets a little hot. He's coming in a little warm. And then he holds off. And then he's kind of like, okay. You see it, and which makes it pay off at the end where we get to the point where we discover that, Kay is doing this on purpose.
Yes, that he was like, it's important that he reminds me of me. Like I want my replacement. I don't want just a replacement. Like I want someone who will do it as well as I do it.
And we get some of that payoff in the subsequent films. I'm not even going to talk about 3 yet because I know that crux of that is a different animal. But
I was thinking about the crux of that while watching this. I'm like, does he remember what's going
right?
on?
That's what I started thinking about too, right? Like I was just like, damn, does he like? Is it really all like And obviously this is like the the problem with a lot of films sequels.
Yes, when they
Especially they expand, and if they do any kind of retcon like they do in 3, that kind of changes some of the history of the situation. It's like they clearly did not know this here, but now they're putting that here, and you go back and it's like, but if you do a good enough job later on, you can kind of fill in some gaps, or maybe a moment changes slightly where it's like, oh, okay, maybe this is where this kind of like ties together, and like maybe this is one of the reasons why he picked him. It isn't just because he could chase down, the alien
he
like
knew.
that. Yeah. And I'm like, okay.
I was definitely thinking of 3 when I started 1. I was just like, I know what happens in 3, so does that actually work if I try to apply it to 1?
It's going to be interesting because I'm just starting 3. I started it today.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, so I'm tracking this now to see how much.
Are you gonna rewatch 4 as well?
I wish we could broadcast that reaction for a podcast, the podcast equivalent.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I like the cast.
I like the cast, yeah.
Do you also like the lighting?
But I do like that the director tried to pull one of those Alan Smithy things where he was like, "Can you take my name off this movie? I absolutely hate it." And they're like, "Too late, buddy. You're stuck with having your name on this movie."
Yeah, I probably will because I am a sucker for punishment.
Okay.
Right? Like when I do, like, for example, when I do Star Wars, when I do a rewatch, I do a rewatch.
You gotta watch it all. Yeah.
As much as it hurts. Like as much as it hurts me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, bud. My little 4-legged baby came in.
Yeah. I saw the door and I'm like, must be the cat.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a pain in my ass, but that's okay. He sorry, where was I? I was like
Star Wars rewatches.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. So you kind of like I do, right? Like but it depends on which version, if I do the machete cut, or if I do standard time, original time. I have
You got options.
I do, and this is always when like Candace like rolls her eyes. She's like, "Oh, like such a nerd," and I'm like, "Well, these things matter." I'm like, what do you want to do?" Like when because we're like Christmas time, we usually watch like a film series.
Yeah.
But then it becomes, are we doing original release order? Are we doing chronological order? Or are we going to do the machete cut? And then every time I say this, right, she's like, "Nerd." that you ask me which of the 3 ways you want to watch it. But then she always is like, "What's the machete cut?"
Yeah, it sounds interesting. You're like, all right, hold on now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And and for non-people, then you start explaining it and then it becomes a whole thing.
Yeah, it totally does. And I'm right there with you because for some reason in my daily life, I always find, and this is very common, I guess, a lot of women that have never seen Star Wars and they're like, "Would you like to show me?" And I'm like, I still want this to go to a second or third date, so I don't want to have that conversation with explaining theatrical, chronological, machete. Are we going to the Clone Wars, or like what's going on here? It's a lot. But yeah, I get your pain.
It is, and like she's great about most things with me. She tolerates me, right? But she noticed that I was watching Men in Black. She's like, "You're watching Men in Black," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to be recording with the guys and I need to watch the film. I haven't been forever." She's like, "Okay, are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure. It's actually a good movie." Right. But yeah, it's just like, that's the thing. Like this, you never know. So no, I don't know about 4. I'm not sure. I probably will.
Yeah. The only thing about that movie I remember was thinking, who cares if it's international? They deal with aliens. It's all like interplanetary. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I never once. They even said it in this movie. It's like, yeah, there's aliens all over the world. Most of them reside in Manhattan, and I'm like, okay, well, why international?
But for this movie, a bummer is that Agent L doesn't come back. Is her name L?
Yes.
I know the actress' name is Linda, but I didn't remember if the character went to Agent L. She doesn't show up in the other movies, and I feel like that is a bummer because I also liked her joining in on this.
I agree.
Yeah,
and I was upset when she didn't show up in part 2.
I was too, and I remember at the time I was like, "Oh, this is kind of like, why? Oh, that sucks. Like, why?" And then I was like, "Why is Tommy Lee back?" Right? Because the way this film ends, it gives him a nice,
like, just give him a happy ending,
right? Yeah. And there's some behind the scenes stuff that goes along with that that comes out apparently out of this film. partially because apparently one of the rumors is that her and Tommy Lee just did not get along like at all.
I did notice that they are, even in their blocking, not necessarily around each other a lot in the movie.
You know, it's stuff like that is always fascinating to me because it's like I remember doing some interviews as we came out of with actors coming out of the lockdowns, right?
Okay, yeah.
And talking about how I started noticing in shows, movies, etc., that blocking was different. So like a scene, and not even just like how many people were in the scene, it was how like two scene partners that are sharing a scene, like lovers or you know, like married couples, whatever, right? Like they're not standing beside each other or like shoulder to shoulder or whatever. They're standing a little bit further. I was like, you know, and I started commenting on this, and some people were like, you know, yeah, we were doing things because of COVID precautions, but other ones were like, no, I never really thought about it. And I'm like, that could be subtextual. You're just not thinking about it, you know, and directors are like, no, you keep them apart. That's something I didn't think about when I was watching it this time. It was like, is that a thing between those two? You know what I mean? Because it could be.
It is. It's one of those things where like I hadn't heard that she had trouble with Tommy Lee Jones, just that she was difficult on set, and then but it was also around the time of you know, Time's Up and Me Too, where you learned that hearing that a woman was difficult on set probably meant she wasn't
that was the thing,
sexual advances. And so I was like, I mean, because she didn't really show up in anything after that. Like she did, but she wasn't like.
Well, there was a whole thing. If you look it up, like there's this story, there's the story from Dogma, there's like there's a bunch. And to your point, I was thinking about it as I was rereading some of these because I was like, oh, why did she? I can't remember if it was a money thing or if there was something else that went on. So I looked it up and I was just like, oh, okay, right. And then immediately I started thinking about what you just mentioned was like today that's a different topic of discussion than it was in the late 90s, early 2000s, where it was just kind of like, oh yeah, that's obviously what happened, you know. And now knowing and hear it, like listening to other people's stories, you begin to understand you know, like the world is not how it's usually painted.
No, not at all. It's just upsetting label to give an actress, like, because in this day and age, to hear that and then think about the different people she worked with and be like, I hope I mean, I don't want her to be difficult. I just hope that I can take that at face value and there's no other meaning behind it.
Yeah, it's it's a touchy place. Because that's the thing is like I'm like could be, could not be, but let's face facts. It probably is a misogynistic, you know, viewpoint on this at this point because most of the time it was. It's just Hollywood's really great at covering shit up.
Yes,
as we learned out of Me Too and the whole Harvey Weinstein thing.
Yes,
that you know, like how often this was happening, you know, and it's and how and like shockingly an open secret. Which is even worse.
That's the terrible part. That it's not like, oh, no one knew. Everyone's just like, oh yeah, you just got to run interference for this person, or so they can do what they're doing.
Yeah, because there's like definitely footage of like award shows where it's like any advice to young girls, and like I forget who says it. It's like just never be alone with Harvey Weinstein or something like that. Was like looking back at that now, I'm like, yeah, that was legit advice.
Yeah,
legit,
and I'm like, holy crap, that bad. It was that bad.
It's ridiculous, right? So like, yeah. So back to the point of it, though, it is from a story point and as a fan point, it is disappointing not to have her back.
Absolutely.
Even if she was back, you know, like because we've seen it before. Characters brought in for like 5-10 minutes at the beginning of the film to kill them off, you know, or to write them out because they, you know, like maybe it was just they came back as a favor, you know, or contractually speaking, but I didn't really want to do it, so kill me off, you know, and then they can bring back in K or whatever. No, this is what just pretend it never happened.
No,
okay, I'm not going to see that. I'm almost wanting to start talking about the second film. I should,
Right.
But yeah, it is disappointing because I
Mhm.
did find, back to your point, Daniel, I did find her character interesting because,
Yes.
and sadly, they talk a bit about it, but they never seem to talk about it in the future, which is
Mhm.
a missed opportunity as far as I'm concerned. Excuse me. Is the neuralizer
Mhm.
and how it potentially is damaging people's brains.
Yeah, like the way Tommy Lee Jones is like, I never heard of it. You're just kind of like, wait, I think this is the only time I thought, oh, I think it does fuck with people's brains. Like just before, as like when I would watch it before, I was just like, oh, okay, it's fine. But this is the first time I was like, no, I think Will Smith is onto something.
Right? Like it's like, I think, and this, I'll say this: if this film was to be remade again today, right? Like forget international, just I'm just like
Yeah.
going back to just the core story. Well,
Mhm.
we didn't even talk about it yet. Is like this is nothing like the comic books,
Mhm.
Well, yeah.
right?
I
It's like
figure this is Men in Black in name alone.
yeah, no, that's it. I was reading more about it because I had never really read the comics. I knew that they existed, but I never read them.
Mhm.
And it, like this is a comedy. The comics were not.
Mhm.
And in the comics, the Men in Black are actually like assholes, like pure. They kill a lot of people. It's just it's that's what they do, right? It's
Right.
more like the traditional Men in Black, conspiracy nut idea
Mm.
in
Right.
the
Like
comic, right?
more like a Black Ops kind of thing. And
Yeah, like
yeah.
they're out there just wiping people away, or in
Mm.
aliens, just doing stuff, right? But I was thinking like when you think about it, it's like I would be fascinated to see them handle things like the neuralizer and how, like, because if you look at Linda Fiorentino's character, Dr.
Mhm.
Laurel Weaver, you look at her characters, like she's been zapped
A bunch.
like a lot, and like
Yeah.
the way that Tommy Lee Jones talks about it, he's like, oh yeah, we did her last week, and the week before, it's like, oh, how many times is this with her?
Mhm.
Like 15, 20, 25? Like how, like at what point, like we don't even get x-rays every day,
Yeah.
right? Like there's a reason, like when you go in, I remember when I first went in for an x-ray, the very first, I was like, why am I wearing a lead thing on my chest? Like what
Mhm.
is going on here? Right? Like how dangerous is, and then they leave the room and you're like, what
Yeah, everyone
the
like runs and hides behind the thing, and you're like, "Wait, why am I here?"
right? And it's like, it's covering your groin and it's
Hmm.
covering your throat. Like they're
Mhm.
like, well, we got to make sure, don't move it, and make sure got to cover the vital organs. And I'm like, what is this doing to me? Like,
Mhm.
I feel like they definitely would write something in if there was a reboot about like you only get so many neuralizer. You can't just do it whenever you feel like it.
I think that would be like, like you could write a character like her,
Mhm.
right? That it
That went
Swiss cheese,
like maybe
like
she's
maybe,
the villain of the movie, like because we had to neuralize her too many times.
yeah, like
She's an ex Men in Black.
right, there's something like that, or maybe this explains why there's dementia in the world, like
Hmm.
the rise in dementia after the
Mm.
50s, in real life.
Yes,
Like
yeah,
maybe it's because we've all been neuralized like 80 times, right? You know what I mean? Like it's
Mm.
crazy, like crazy things that they didn't do, which is, it's also like Tony Shalhoub's Jeeves that I mentioned earlier, right? Like
yeah.
I
He
think that's a
seems
really
really
cool
messed up.
character. Yeah, he's totally messed up, but
Mhm.
he's a really cool character. Like I get that it's the end of the world, like the galaxy thing, and then
Mhm.
the aliens are going to come and blow up the planet, and the bug wants to do things, and he's eating people and all that. So I get it. Big picture, money
Mhm.
shots, porn everywhere, right? But what about like the day-to-day stuff? Like this, like the baby being born, or like the worms just sitting around having coffee and drink,
Mhm.
like
Right, they're like getting what's his face is getting angry at them for just having their coffee break, and he's like, "You ingrates," and they're just like, "Come on, man,
right,
we're just trying to relax."
like there's a part, like that's where I think this would, like as a TV show, that's where you would get like the real gold, is like those extended scenes where
Mhm.
you get a character like Alfred, like I mentioned at the top of the show,
Hmm.
like with the smaller
Mhm.
scenes that they really pick up.
I
So
would,
it's funny that you mentioned that because as a kid around this era, I love this movie so much that I was like, there's an animated show coming out about this. And
Yeah.
that's exactly where my memory of MIB lands
Mhm.
is
I just remember the theme song. I don't even remember the show.
I remember as much as I possibly could reasonably remember that show. I remember more of the Spider-Man and the Batman animated series, but like Men in Black was like you get those bits in there, and I was like, this is great. This is like supplementing the movie because I'm like, these are clearly supposed to be these same characters, and I'm like, that was a great period of time where it was like, wait, before the idea of like, was this connected or just what's going on here? But to your point, that show after they released this was really, really good for those kind of things, the day-to-day alien stuff.
Yeah, I think I only ever saw like maybe one or two episodes, and I remember it not having a traditional North American animation style.
Yes.
So I was like, and so there was a part of me in my back of my mind that always tickles, and I was like, oh, I should go try and see if I can go find that and go watch it again. Like, or actually, sorry, watch it to see, because that was one of the things they meant. I was reading about L, not coming back was like not even like the animated series didn't even connect to the second film.
Right.
No, like you would think, right? But like today, that's what would have happened.
I feel like they were trying to do the comic in the cartoon. They were trying to like, oh, we can try and do the comic more accurately in the cartoon. I feel like was the idea, but I don't remember anything other than the theme song.
Yeah, the only thing about this show that I found out that I did not know at the time, or at least I don't remember knowing, is that apparently Chris O'Donnell was the original Jay.
Oh,
that makes sense. I feel like Chris O'Donnell was always up for stuff.
Yeah, because he came out of there's the reason he was high on the producers list at the time to be cast as Jay was because he had just done Batman and Robin and Batman Forever. So it was like he was still at that pinnacle of his career where he was like the hot guy, right? He
was about to launch off.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this is the guy, but then they got Will Smith and I'm like, that's totally a different film.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering who was supposed to be Jay, if not because Will Smith was like the Fresh Prince and he had the Fresh Prince TV show, but I feel like this was before people were like, oh well, he's a movie star. I think they were like, because they didn't really lead with him being in Independence Day. I remember like a couple trailers showed glimpses of him, and then this was the movie where like, he's in it with Tommy Lee Jones, and it's obviously skewed more for him to get big moments of laughs, but I wonder who like you're saying Chris O'Donnell, and I was just like, because it can't be that they thought of it as a Will Smith thing because it comes a year after Independence Day. I don't think enough time would have passed for people to know for sure that he would be able to take on that role.
Yeah, no, because in the comics they're both white characters.
Yeah,
right. So that's obvious that that's where they're thinking. Plus Hollywood in the 90s. But bringing Will Smith in, like, there is that shift tonally. He's got a different sense of humor. He brings a different vibe and energy. I also, for their benefit, he brought in the song, which was a big hit at the time. I remember.
I don't know how I forgot about that. Like the movie ended, and it was just like, oh right, we get a Will Smith song. Why didn't I?
Yeah.
I was so looking forward to it. I was so happy. I was like, yes, because the stuff that Will Smith did release in terms of rap, I'm like, this is catchy enough for me to remember. Yeah. And I do. And every time I hear it, like, I'm like, we're going to Miami, baby. Yes. Yes. Let's get happy about this. It's so
fair,
good.
A lot of his stuff is written by like Nas and Rakim. So it's not like he's like picking terrible people to write his stuff for him. But I think I for whatever reason I forgot, and it was the only reason I kind of liked the Aladdin movie. I was like, look, we get Will Smith songs again. He does a rap at the end of the movie explaining the movie. Like it's like the 90s again. Great.
Yeah, that was something about this that I was like, oh yeah, as I was watching it and this theme song comes up at the end, I was like, oh right, this was a thing in the 80s and 90s, especially the 90s, of doing like Armageddon had it, this of course
theme song, which great,
which it's not in the film, it's not the opening title, it's like what. But it's just a way to get another Oscar nomination. Yep. I'm like, all right. That's, like ever since The Bodyguard, it was like that was the thing.
Yeah, I remember hearing, like Dolly Parton kind of like hearing it on the radio and being like, huh, I guess she did do a good job, because I think she's kind of like, oh, Whitney Houston did one of my songs. I'm not into it, and like was kind of just against it until she heard the actual song. She's like, All right, fair enough.
Well, that's how you know a song. For me, that's how I came up to this conclusion years ago when Johnny Cash did "Hurt" by Nine Inch Nails. I was like, you know, a song is great when it can be sung in different genres
Yeah.
and still be amazing.
Yeah.
Right. That to me is transcendent music, because then it becomes like, doesn't matter that it's not industrial. Okay, now it's gonna be sung as like a mournful country tune. Yeah, all right.
It's that is such a great example of it. Of like, yeah, that's a Nine Inch Nails song, but like you could think like, oh no, that's a Johnny Cash song. The way like if you're new to the situation, the way like he completely like owns that sound of it, and yeah, it's a great example of that song being able to endure in both genres and feel authentic in both of them.
Yeah, like it's and so, but in regard, like, okay, see, this is my problem. See, I apologize. I am tangents galore. So
no problem.
But back to this. Yeah, the movie ends. You get the track playing, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is 1997 all over again.
It's great. It's a good vibe. And then you peel back the curtains and you're like, oh, yeah, they were selling us propaganda. That sucks.
Yeah. Well, I remember some
propaganda.
Of the...
Well, in terms of like everything's happy, like it's good vibes, Hollywood's great, and all that kind of stuff. And behind
specifically like
no, there was
black.
Like, no,
I didn't selling us this Men in Black propaganda.
I mean, like, hey, it's got one of the easiest uniforms out there. It's a thing. Best Halloween costume ever.
Sunglasses the way they do. I know that. I'm really bad with sunglasses.
Yeah, Will Smith makes it look good. Yeah, as he says in the movie.
That I always remember that, because that was part of the marketing campaign.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
The difference between me and you, I make this look good. I'm like, that is a great catch line.
It's a great line.
You know, like to just you get your attention. You know,
and
like,
Will Smith had the perfect energy for that line where you're like, oh, this isn't cheesy coming from you. This is legit good. This is awesome. Yeah. Could you imagine Chris O'Donnell saying that? No.
I was just about to say
absolutely
that. Absolutely not. No, that's not a line for him. Well, no. It wouldn't have been a comedy.
No. They would have had to have gone just action movie, like sci-fi, and with a couple of jokes here and there.
Yeah, and I think, well, and then going back to your earlier statement about Tommy Lee Jones being a little confused, would have solved some problems for him.
Yeah,
it definitely would have. He would have been like, okay,
but I don't think the performance would have been different.
No,
you're right about that.
There's no way he would change that performance. It's like, I don't know how he feels about it, but it is a good performance for the movie he's in.
Yeah. I feel like he would be just like, no, there's a different setting on my furrowed brows. Like, you're clearly not seeing the physicality behind my eyebrows. Like, but listen, I don't think you're right. He wouldn't have changed. I don't think you're right.
No, he is, even when he's in the most serious of films. He can make anything hilarious. Here's a hot take for you. No Country for Old Men, funniest film that year.
Could be. I don't remember the other movies that year.
I need to watch it with that lens. That is
100% the funniest film that year. And I almost got in a fist fight over that statement once.
Hilarious.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Fisticuffs.
I said it to a guy who loved the film, and he was like, "So you saw?" Because I mentioned I saw it, and it was like, "Yeah." I didn't even get a chance for him to get in his input. I had no idea what he thought, other than just say that he was like, it's like, "Oh, you saw it, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." and he's like, "So what'd you think?" And I was like, "Oh man, funniest film I've seen this year." And I was being totally sincere. Like, I laughed a lot during that movie. Like, a lot.
You can still like it even though you laughed.
I think you just like it. Like, you liking it for a different reason doesn't take it away from him. Like, I was just like, 100%. Why get to the point of fisticuffs though? What was the big thing that was just like, you can't say that, man? You cannot. What was the thing?
Was
his last name Cohen?
No.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't. But I think it was just that he identified with parts of the film, like it spoke to him in a way that just like,
right.
And I think he just it had a connection for him. There was also some problems as well that just led to aggression sometimes.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And did not taking well to ulterior thought processes.
Right.
So when confronted with me saying very flippantly something that he at this point, I remember when I was a kid, years ago, like, well, I'm not a kid, but like talking to some people and they were like, oh, Star Wars is a piece of shit. And I was just like, say what? Right. Of course I don't do that anymore. I don't care. Love it, hate it, fuck, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if we can be friends, but whatever. I joke. I joke. Yeah. No, I would never
this is
throw
a Star
down.
Wart safe podcast. Don't worry about it. We enjoy Star Wars.
No, I joke, right? But it's the but yeah, I said that. He was like, what? And then he was like, what are you talking? And he started like talking about the themes and all this stuff. And I was like, dude, Tommy Lee Jones, man.
Yeah,
that motherfucker's funny. And he's like,
and
what?
Javier Bardem was funny in it.
Yes. But I was like, I don't care at all about the rest of the film. Tommy Lee Jones talking about milk, hands down one of the funniest scenes I've seen. Right? I was like, and he was like lost his mind. He was so like could not comprehend the language I was speaking.
All right.
But it goes back, like when I look at Tommy Lee's body of work, right? Like he's obviously known as a serious actor, right? And films like this is what allowed some people like us to get used to this idea of him being funny. He's really funny. It's like Robert De Niro. Finding out that he actually had a funny bone was mind blowing. And that he actually could be funny. I was like, okay. But it's a specific type of funny that both him and Tommy Lee Jones share, which is that kind of like straight man energy.
Yes, they're playing the straight man.
Yeah, they get some lines in, but it's
although he is kind of not straight man funny in King of Comedy. It is a more unhinged thing. But yeah, I know what you mean. Overall, like if you think of him in like Meet the Parents and stuff, it's the straight man humor that he can do.
Yeah. And Tommy's like that too. If you go back to Tommy in The Fugitive, right?
Also
which is what I love that movie. But he's got some really great killer lines, all told as a straight man though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's
right?
not winking when he does it. He's just. I think the only no, probably not only. But the big is Batman Forever, which we just did, where he's clearly joking around. But other than
he's
that,
in his own movie. He like him, like that's a movie of movies.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
We talked about how we didn't really think there was a need for Two-Face in that movie, but I was happy that he was having a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. My only disappointment about that is that while back then I didn't like the choice, I still was upset they did not use Billy D. Williams as Two-Face. I thought that was.
Oh, we were livid about that.
It's a total disservice. I don't think that he would have done a great job, because that version of Two-Face and Billy D. I don't know, because like
I
Billy
don't think
D.
of him as menacing. He's too smooth. He would have to be like another villain.
Billy D.
Yeah.
Like, I think Billy D's interpretation of Two-Face in that universe, it would not have been what Tommy Lee did.
No. Of course not. No.
Right. And that's only because it was Schumacher and, whatever. Right. Like, and that's the thing. Like, it's like Tommy Lee, somebody just let the dogs loose, and he's in that movie, and and Jim Carrey's in his own movie, and Val Kilmer's in his movie. Right. Chris O'Donnell kind of floats into that movie a little bit, but he's still doing, fucking Dead Poets Society. Not Dead Poets. Yeah, it's Dead Poets Society, right?
Is he in that? He's in that. He's got it.
I know he's in the other one. I know he's for sure in the other one. No, that's Ethan Hawke. It's the one with was it not School Days? School Ties. Yeah. he's hanging out in that one, and then he kind of then he puts on a costume and rolls into the scenes with Val Kilmer a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it's like I don't know what's going on, right?
Not
But
into it.
the other guys, different movies. It's like totally different movies.
They are. They're certainly going for it without a director who's trying to put them all in the same thing.
It's craziness. That's why, again, I like looking at this. This is something that Men in Black could have done. It could have been an utter train wreck. When you look at the parts of this film, like the crazy aliens, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, Rip Torn, right? Like, we didn't even talk about D'Onofrio's insane performance as Edgar. Like,
D'Onofrio's
that was the big thing in my family, just the D'Onofrio performance, like Edgar. And me not knowing what he was trying to get accomplished, but just knowing like he's certainly menacing on screen. Like I put my hands like this, like pulling his skin back and looking for the galaxy. Where's that? I was just like, yeah, this guy really went for it.
He did. I was reading. I didn't know it at the time, but it made total sense when you look at his performance. He was wearing leg braces underneath his overalls to do that walk.
Okay.
Because it was an idea that he had, and I was like, I can't argue with it. The idea that he had that this bug would not walk properly as a human,
right? Like
because
it doesn't bend the knees properly or anything like that. It would,
because it doesn't know it's not human. And I was like
even the detail of trying to get into the door and just like not really fully understanding the mechanics of it. I really like that too.
I love the mechanics of him trying to put his head on his hand and how he just had to move his arm like each individual step
when he's
and
trying
then
to do the stakeout,
tilt his head on. It was the greatest thing in the world. It was a good physical performance for sure. I loved it.
And that's again, like when I look at this, we're just seeing Will Smith really at the beginning of his career, because this is the film that made him a superstar, right?
Right. Yeah, like it's like okay, he can lead a movie.
Yeah, right. Because like obviously ID4 was successful and he's part of it, and we didn't realize how big of a role he was having in it. But this is the first film that he's like in a co-lead situation like that's big, right? But you realize it's really about him anyways, right? Yes. But you got Tommy Lee Jones, amazing actor and performance in this film. You got Rip Torn doing great work in this film. D'Onofrio doing great work. Linda Fiorentino's, I liked her, but she's not like doing amazing work. I've seen her do some. She's doing well in the job.
Yeah.
And let's be fair, not really like this is a film not really given to women.
No, there was no real interest in having her be an actual equal part in the film.
No.
They met their diversity quota, so to speak.
Yeah. Look, she's
there.
She doesn't die. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Right. And you got Tony Shalhoub, and there's a few others that pop in and out, and it's like
David Cross is in it.
Yeah. And he comes back. I didn't even remember that he comes back.
Is he in the second one or the third one?
He's in the second film.
Okay, nice.
That was awesome to see him there.
Yeah. And he's the same character.
Nice. Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah, good.
But he's in a different setting. That's what I learned. I was like, oh, okay, this makes. But yeah, it's like this movie has a lot of great actors. But Sonnenfeld, I mean, I think about that. I think about the crazy premise, the era, all that stuff. And, it's not like comic book movies today, right? Like the Marvel way, like the MCU, all that stuff. Like there's like we even talk about it now. Like we all talk about like, are we burnt out? Right. There's arguments there. I'm not either, but there's arguments to be made. Yes, I get it. Yeah. Right? There was no path for this film, and yet somehow, some way, Sonnenfeld managed to take all of those disparate parts and make a cohesive story in a tight 97 minutes, which I just love to this day. And it's like, and it just works,
yeah. I said it up top. It works for me. But I do think this is the perfect time to ask you to rate it out of 10. With that build up, I feel like there's only one thing that can happen after that, which is
out of 10.
Yeah, that's the number we use.
Okay, that's fair. I can do a number. This is how I work. My brain works like this. So like what? And Daniel knows this because I asked him a million questions before we did this recording. Is this a ranking out of 10 in all of film or in comic book movies?
Just how you feel about it.
Just how you feel about it right here and now.
no one's gonna be like, if you gave this like a 6, but you gave V for Vendetta an 8. How could it? We'll just be like, however you feel about it on this revisit today. When I say would you give it out of 10?
I'm gonna go with a strong 7.
Nice.
Excellent.
Because I can't go. I don't think I can go higher because there are some plotting and structural flaws in the film. I think overall, like where it could have used, like I said, like earlier, I mentioned like a minute here, a minute there, kind of thing, could have helped flesh it out a little bit more. But fun factor, it's like for me, it's like a 9 on the fun scale, right?
Yeah.
The effects hold up, I think, pretty well to keep it at that 7 mark. Performances are really good, for what they've got. Like this isn't, we're not winning awards with this film.
No.
And yeah, and again, like I said, like this, the plot is like, fuck, it's paper thin, man. Like this is like this is written on the back of a napkin while at lunch, right?
Yep.
But it's fun. So yeah, I'm gonna go strong 7. Strong 7.
I'm gonna give it an 8.5, and I will also add the detail that you talked me down from what I was gonna originally say. I won't say how much, but you did, and it's at an 8.5
now. I am at an 8 with this movie.
Okay.
I'm solid 8. This is a great film. I had a lot of fun, and I want to premise like, what did I give Superman 3? Because it was ridiculously high, like way higher than it deserves.
No,
but I'm just like,
you gave it a 7, and I was like, jeez.
No, it was just based on the fact that I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's just how much fun you had with it.
Yeah.
See, I can Superman 3. I'll tell you right now, that the movie is like a 3 or a 4. However, the junkyard fight is a 10.
It certainly lasts for like 10 days.
Yeah.
Right. But that whole like dirty, angry Superman section of that film, it's a 10. That's the only reason to watch that film.
As I said, when he blew out the Olympic flame, I thought that was comedy gold. I was not joking around. I genuinely thought that was very funny.
Yeah. When he straightened out the Leaning Tower of Pisa, I'm like, yes, yes, that is great. Dick Superman. I love it.
Yeah, and you totally, you can see like this is what a 12-year-old would write for a Dick Superman.
Yep. It's like there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah. Try to make it lean again without making it fall over. Go ahead.
Right? Like
I can't go lower than what I gave it. I found that Men in Black is very fun. Like you found Superman 3 very fun.
Yeah.
I find Men in Black very fun.
Don't hold me back. If you were going to give it like a 9 or a 9.5, go for it, man. Like it's
to be clear, if I was going to give it, I've been successfully talked down. Not like, it's not like peer pressure talked down. It's just like, the things you said made sense to me. And having thought about it, I'm like, yeah, okay, it's an 8.5.
Okay. Still
taking in the information and being like, yep, yeah, that's true.
It's still like I said, it's a strong 7 for me, right? Like if I did it on just comic book films, I'd probably move it to like an 8, like maybe an 8.5. In films in general, it's probably like a 5, like 5 to a 6 probably. But I feel comfortable in my 7 because it's a lot of fun. Rewatchability.
Yeah, it's got great rewatchability.
It's solid.
That was the thing when as I was watching it, I was like, because it'd been a while. I was like, damn, yeah, this is, you can like, it doesn't offend me, right, in any way, obviously, and I mean that like not even just from, whatever stupid bullshit offense things. I mean like it doesn't offend my brain.
Right, you can watch it and not be like, hey, how dare you? You just be like, yeah, look.
Right, like it's not like not like Superman 3. No offense, Ben. Like,
no,
I think we're all on the same page, right? Like, it's like
100%.
Not a great film, but it's fun, right? Like,
that's exactly it. Objectively, it's not a great film, but I'm like the first 5 minutes, I'm like, if this is what you're giving me, if this is the energy you're giving me within the first 5 minutes, I've made a decision. To watch this, I have to make a decision to either lean into it or just hate it altogether. And I'm all about having a good time. So
sometimes it's all you want. That's all you like. I was talking recently to Andrew about this. We talk about it on the show every once in a while. It'll come up because I talk about this, the fun factor, right? Like this is where I think this movie fits into is when it comes to TV, because I watch a lot of TV, right? So I love TV. But recently, the last few years, I've been watching the reboot of Magnum PI.
Okay.
Is it a good show? Not really. I enjoy it. Was I a big Magnum PI fan back in the day? No, not really. I knew about it. Yeah. But the reason that I like it, and I'll tell you why, just like this film with the 97 minutes, Magnum PI, the reboot is like the 80s television that I grew up on, is that it's episodic. So like, and you get in on an episode, you leave on an episode. You don't, if you miss a couple, there is like an overarching story, but like that's not integral to everything. You can come in at any point and just still feel like you know what's going on, you know? And it's fun.
It's nice, comfortable, fun.
Yeah,
TV.
it's comfort. That's the right word. It's comfort. It's like having chicken noodle soup when you're sick. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever it is that you enjoy, your comfort foods. That's what this is, right? And Men in Black, like that's why I say Strong 7, because it's like it filled that void for me, and that's what more do you want out of a movie? Not everything can be Selma or Schindler's List or whatever else. You know what I mean? Like, or Gandhi. Like they don't have to be deep.
No. I was hoping you'd throw in Ali there just for a Will Smith thing.
Yeah, best not to talk. It's best not to talk about Will Smith's serious work.
It all. The face.
Like, I was thinking about, oh, maybe I'll throw you a bone and give you another good. And I was like, I can't think of a good.
You were gonna say Concussion. It's okay.
No,
I'm joking.
I would maybe either 6 Degrees of Separation, or
that's my favorite performance by him.
Or what is it? Fuck, I can't remember the name of the film. That's the one where he's in the wheelchair. It's not Kids. It's damn it.
Will Smith in a wheelchair.
Yeah, it's like, no, this is like Fresh Prince era. Like he
Oh, that's the episode where he got shot and then Carlton had a gun.
No. This is a movie. It's from that era.
Damn it. Because that's distinctly, I remember him being in the wheelchair. And like when you said Fresh Prince, I'm like, damn it. Memory association.
No, sorry. Yeah, no, it's totally legit. It's just from that like rough era of his film career. He was just starting to get into stuff. So he was doing like small roles, and this was one of those.
He's in that like Made in America movie with Whoopi Goldberg, but I don't think he's in a wheelchair in that.
No. This is a serious film.
Okay.
Where is this? Would have been like what, like 90? No. The hell is all this garbage?
I feel like I have to fill time here. What I will do while you look that up is I will let people know that we are part of the That Shelf Podcast Network with other great shows like Bad Game Movies, Contra Zoom Pod, Springfield, Googleplex. So please go to thatshelf.com. You'll find our show, those shows, more shows. If you want to hear older episodes of our show, please go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. Our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. Our Twitter and Instagram @tdfspoiled. So please get in touch with us there. We're on all the podcast platforms. So please rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, follow, do all those things you need to do. And we've got and
drum roll for the money shot. James,
we're gonna make you wait for it. It's buffering. Don't worry.
It is buffering.
Is it?
I cannot. I thought I had it for a second, and then why is this so hard for me to find this today? Like, it's, you know why? It's because IMDb went and screwed up their site and changed the way they did everything.
Yeah.
Unclick things and filter more now.
It's frustrating. But I will share with everyone, I think for me, the greatest Will Smith moment is just Fresh Prince with Uncle Phil, that improv scene where he just breaks down about his dad leaving him again.
Buddy, I cannot with that scene.
Yeah, makes me cry every time.
Mm-hmm. Like without fail. Like it's solid. Shit. This is his very first film. It's Where the Day Takes You.
Oh, yeah, never heard of it. I'm gonna go watch. I'm gonna seek that out now.
Nice.
Yeah, because Runaways, yeah, because it's like street kids, like
Okay, wow.
just living their life kind of thing. Like, so it's like it was like the knockoff Kids, but
Okay.
more, like more Hollywoodized.
James, where can people find you if they want to hear your voice or read
Well,
your writing?
The best place to go is check out every Friday night at 7 p.m. on realityradio101.com is Geek Hard, the main show I do with Andrew, who's been on this very podcast in the past. I do that. On our Patreon, we have some other stuff over there where I do some individual shows. That's always a good way. And I float around. Like, I'm on most socials as JG Green. You can find me in those places. I'm not super on Twitter. Like, I'm on Twitter, but I'm not on Twitter like I used to be. Anybody
like
really these days?
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got a presence pretty much everywhere. But yeah, you can hear me every Friday night or Mondays after 2 p.m. when we post the podcast. So, we've been doing that for 14 years. It's a long time. There's many hours. Show. That's why I worry about AI now. Because I'm like, I don't even need to do. Somebody's just going to program me and say some crazy shit, and then you know what? I'll probably listen and go, yeah, I would have said that.
Just really doubling down on the old men no country for old men take.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's a part of me that wants AI stuff so I can do a podcast with myself.
Now you're talking. Now you're cooking.
My
this
God.
is an idea.
That would be the biggest like meta thing, like interviewing yourself.
It would be so weird. I thought about this and I was like, that is such a mind fuck that I don't know how I would handle that, because if I programmed it right, it would shoot back the things that I'm doing, like I do, which that can annoy other people sometimes or annoys myself.
Yeah.
So I'd be like that. It'd be a weird, fun experience. But that's I love AI, but I am terrified of it.
Yeah.
Well, as I said earlier in the podcast, you're locked in. We're doing the Men in Black movies together.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you'll be back, and we'll be back next week. Thank you very much for doing this.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.